Labour says, indeed the Home Office says, that 13,460 people have been removed since Labour won its landslide in July. Surely this is to be welcomed.
Well, what they've done is continued the increasing trend of removals that we saw under the previous government. So what they've done is simply continued the work we were doing. A couple of points worth mentioning. Firstly, most of those removals were to European countries and to North America. And secondly, if you look at the 3 months after the election, the number of small boat arrivals who Labour returned actually went down compared to the 3 months before the election, and they amounted to under 5% of the small boat arrivals in that period. So that is not something to be so pleased about. And of course, at the same time, since the election, small boat arrivals under Labour have gone up by 18% compared to the same period last year. So this Labour government is losing control of the channel. Small boat crossings are going up compared to the previous year, whereas, of course, last year, 2023, in government, we managed to get the numbers down for the first time.
You said that Yvette Cooper is losing control of the channel. Are you honestly telling us that you had control of the channel under the Conservatives?
Well, 2 points. Firstly, in 2023, for the first time, we started getting the numbers down. The numbers in 2023 were about a third lower than the previous year, so we were getting those numbers down.
Second, you didn't stop the boats, though.
Well, we were on the way to doing that. We got them down by a third. And then secondly, we had the Rwanda deterrent that was due to start at the end of July. The first plane was due to take off on the 24th of July. And yet the Labour government cancelled that flight before it had a chance to take off. Now, the National Crime Agency tell us that you need a deterrent to stop this problem. They say that law enforcement on its own is not enough. And we also saw in other countries like Australia a deterrent work. About 10 years ago, they had a similar problem to us with people going from Indonesia to Australia by boat. The Australians had this thing called Operation Sovereign Borders, which included sending people to an island called Nauru. So conceptually, that is very similar to what we were going to do with Rwanda. And in Australia, it worked. It completely stopped the boats that were crossing to Australia. We had that plan ready to go. It would have already been having an effect by now, but Labour cancelled it before it even started. And that is why instead of the numbers continuing to go down under Labour, the numbers are now going up.
Well,
by 15%.
Yvette Cooper has told the BBC this morning that she does have a plan. Let's just see what she has been telling Laura Koonsberg on the BBC today, and then I'll ask you to respond, Chris Philp.
We have a responsibility, a moral responsibility, to go after those gangs who are putting lives at risk. When you see these flimsy boats, the way that it's women and kids who get put in the middle of the boat. So when the boat folds, they are the people who get crushed, who end up drowning. This incredibly dangerous boats in the channel, and it undermines our border security.
Labour is changing its language on this a little bit. I would imagine you would agree, Chris Philp. They're talking not just about smashing the gangs, but also about a moral responsibility. Slogans like securing the borders. Do you see anything to welcome in their plan?
Well, I mean, not especially. The law enforcement work about the gangs is something that was happening already. There's nothing new in that. And as the National Crime Agency has said, on its own, that law enforcement activity won't stop the boats. You need a deterrent. So if somebody is planning to cross from Calais to Dover, if they know they're going to be pretty much immediately sent off to Rwanda, they're not going to bother attempting the crossing in the first place, and Labour have cancelled that. It is also, Peter, very, very telling that when Keir Starmer gave his speech a little while ago announcing these milestones, or whatever they're called now, stopping illegal immigration was not even one of his 6 priorities, which I think is rather telling and, frankly, rather concerning as well.
He does say, though, it's a milestone. I wonder, in regard to the plan that Labour have, Yvette Cooper, your opposite number, is in Rome and so on, and you talk about a deterrent and the need for a deterrent. Would you, if you were Home Secretary, bring the Rwanda deterrent back?
Yes, we need a deterrent scheme, whether it's Rwanda or something like it. We'll need to obviously see in 4 or 5 years' time, if we're elected, whether Rwanda is still available. But yes, we need something like that because we know it works. We saw it work in Australia. We've seen it work actually across the channel with Albanians, where when in government, we started returning Albanians who crossed by small boat back to Albania. And pretty quickly, the number of Albanians went down by 93% because if you're going to make a crossing, but then you're going to get returned somewhere, whether it's back to Albania or to a safe third country like Rwanda, you're not going to bother crossing if you're going to get simply returned straight away. So it stands to reason that these deterrents work. And that's why, you know, in the run-up to the election, we saw illegal immigrants around Calais saying that they were hoping that Keir Starmer got elected. And then they said they were happy that he did get elected because they knew that Starmer was going to cancel the Rwanda deterrent. And when you've got people smugglers and illegal migrants saying that they're happy Keir Starmer's been elected, I think that tells you quite a lot, doesn't it?
Tell me your thoughts on the story on the front of the Mail on Sunday about an all-powerful team of more than 100 civil servants being assembled to run the UK's negotiations with Brussels. There are worries that this could be a renegotiation of the Brexit deal. What do you make of this? What's your thoughts?
I think I think it is concerning. Now, clearly, you know, I do want us to have, you know, close trade relations with the European Union because they're a big trading partner, but we cannot have our sovereignty being negotiated away. We had a referendum. The result of that was pretty clear. We delivered ultimately a clean Brexit a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and fully restoring our sovereignty. And it would be very concerning if Keir Starmer is planning to negotiate away any of that sovereignty. So look, close trading relations, yes, we'd welcome that, but giving away sovereignty over, you know, our ability to do other trade deals, over domestic regulation, sovereignty over our borders, none of that should be on the negotiating table. And of course, I think it's this week that we become formally members of the CTPTT, the Trans-Pacific Trade Partnership, opening up free trade with, I think, around about a dozen Pacific nations. And we can do that because we're no longer part of the EU customs union.
Just finally, how good a job do you think Kemi Badenoch is doing? A lot of people don't think she's made much of an impression.
Well, I don't agree with that at all. I think she's doing a great job. You know, we're winning council by-elections up and down the country. We saw, I think, the first opinion poll a week or two ago where the Conservatives were actually ahead of Labour for the first time in 3 or 4 years. She and I gave quite a punchy speech on immigration a couple of weeks ago, acknowledging the mistakes of the past by successive governments, talking about a hard cap on immigration, restoring a deterrent, limiting the ability of migrants further to claim benefits.
What should the hard cap be? What number should it be?
Those are all strong things.
What should the hard cap on immigration be?
Well, we're working through what the number should be, but I'll tell you now, it'll be a lot lower than the numbers we've seen recently, and it will be a lot lower than the OBR forecast in the recent budget.
When do you expect you'll have a number?
Well, we're going to work on getting a number, but it'll be a lot lower than, as I say, the numbers we've seen recently. And in fact, measures the last Conservative government took have already seen the number of visas, for example, social care visas, drop, and that's a leading indicator of immigration because you get your visa a few months before travelling, and those are down by 84%. So you can see some of the measures we took late in the lifetime of the last government already having quite a significant effect.
Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, thank you for joining us on Talk this morning.